Let's go.
Welcome everybody to another episode of the Halftime Adjustments podcast. I am your host, Derek Benavidez, and I got my best friend with me, as always, Colton McCarley.
Hello. How are y'all?
A little late on the hello there, Colton.
Listen,
you all right?
I'm doing my research, okay? I have a fun segment for today, so I'm just loading up.
Yeah, Colton's got something really exciting for us planned today, so I'm heavily relying on him for today's podcast, which is great.
Yeah.
I can rely on him today. But before we get into that, let's talk about some news first. First things first. The biggest news that's out there, or one of the biggest news segments that's out there, I feel like. The Packers are willing to trade Aaron Rodgers, which is kind of surprising to me, honestly. I thought he was going to be their quarterback until he retired, which is honestly still on the table. Like, he could still retire with them. But yeah, there's some rumors going around with Aaron Rodgers, and like his first top landing spot would be with the Colts. And this is a huge mistake for the Colts if they try to get Aaron Rodgers over there.
I couldn't agree more. It would be so weird for them to make this move. This is another washed-up running, and they're winning 2 first-round picks. I mean, that's the crazy thing is, like, my goodness, when will they learn? They just keep doing it over and over to themselves.
Yeah, I don't see any reason why anybody should give up 2 first-round picks for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you were telling me, Colton, before we started that the Packers are only going to trade him to an AFC team, and they want 2 first-round picks.
Which apparently the Jets have come out and said they're willing to pay that. Like, they're okay paying that amount. How
That's
crazy
so
is
dumb.
that?
No. No way. No. That's like the dumbest trade anybody could ever do. Like, that's so much. Like, you're giving away so much for somebody that's like in the later parts of his career.
Dude, he's like 38, isn't he? No, he's way older than that. How old is he these days?
I don't know. I'm looking it up right now, though.
We have to figure out his age. I have to know.
Now. All right, let's see if we can find it faster. Hold on.
38.
39.
Dang it.
39 years old. Born on December 12th or 2nd. Yeah, he's up there, dude. He's on the, I mean, he's not as old as Tom Brady, but he's the second oldest quarterback, isn't he? Is there somebody else that's as old as him?
I can't think of anyone off the top of my head who's actively playing. Who could be close? Tom Brady's like
Matt Ryan.
You know what? Matt Ryan's a good shout. He's up there.
Yeah, it
in
was
age,
Matt Ryan. I'm freaking looking that up too. Hold on. I want to see if he's older.
Boom. I got it. 37.
Oh, dang.
I'm looking. No, man.
So,
No one's even close to him besides Matt Ryan. He was the last one, but Aaron Rodgers is 39, Tom Brady 45, and then it's like 34s is the next highest tier level. So, yeah. Not a whole lot of old guys are doing it like Tom. And I think everybody was like, oh, we can do it like Tom Brady does. And they're realizing their bodies are not superhuman like Tom Brady.
Yeah.
It's always funny to see.
I mean, if anybody gives the Packers 2 first-round picks, this will be a worse trade than the Russell Wilson one. No doubt.
Yeah, it'd be really tough.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess we'll see how that shakes out later in the off season for him. On other news, though, Mahomes suffered a high ankle sprain during his last game with the Jaguars. This was a tough one. He toughed it out and he came back, which is the worst thing he probably could have done, because now that swelling is just going to get even worse. They're saying he's going to play.
Really?
So, I mean, yeah, they're saying he's ready to go. Like, they're not taking any they're not gonna give him any like rest or anything like that.
That's weird.
I mean, they'll probably rest him like this upcoming, like leading up to the game, but during game time he's gonna be good to go. They're saying. So I don't.
How do you feel about this? Do you think they're just going to shoot him up with some numbness and say best of luck? Like,
probably. Yeah, they're probably going to shoot. Like, they're probably going to give him a shot, like right on his high ankle, so that we can't feel the pain, and just run him out there because that's the worst, dude. That's like, I mean, he's obviously a gamer. Like, he obviously wants to be out there, but I mean. I don't know. You got to protect him from himself at some point, I feel like.
It's either that, like I'm trying to think of, it's either that or like either that or he's not going to run at all. Like he's just not going to do anything except for drop back, and the pressure, if it comes, he's going to let the ball go, and if the pressure doesn't come, then he's just going to throw the ball like every time. He's not going to scramble for a first down. Like he just can't. How can you?
Yeah.
I don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way that he's going to be able to scramble. Like his mobile ability, I mean, it's not as good as Josh Allen's, like in no way. And the Bengals were getting to Josh Allen pretty easily this last game. That's why they were able to keep the score down from the Bills.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so, like, I don't know. I just like I see this game being really ugly now that Mahomes has this injury. Because he was doing everything for the team. Like, he was the guy that was doing everything for that team. And if he's limited in any way, then it's not looking good. It's not going to look good for the Chiefs, I don't think. So,
yeah, I agree.
So, yeah. I mean, it looks like my Super Bowl predictions might come true. Who knows?
Maybe.
Who knows? I had the Bengals and 49ers, just to remind everybody. You had the Bills, Colton. I just want to go ahead and put you under the bus. You had the Bills, and they lost.
Man, so. I truly thought that this team was built to win. I think their window is passing them. They have some contracts coming up this year, like Jordan Poyer. He's their like elite safety. I just don't know like if they can keep this squad together much longer. So Stephon Diggs looks frustrated now. I don't know, like. He's old. He's getting, what is he, 30, 31 now? Somewhere in that ballpark?
I don't think he's in his 30s yet. I think he's like late 20s, but.
Oh, now you got to make me look it up because I'm pretty sure Stephon Diggs, I think he's like,
29. He's 29 years old.
29, yeah. So he's going into his 30th year here.
Yeah.
And it's November, so by the time he plays the season, he'll turn essentially 30 years old mid-season. So I think he's starting to realize his time is not forever. And I wanted to bring this up in this podcast. Are the Buffalo Bills organization leaning too much into this whole we're not fazed by the snow? We had several games in the snow this year for the Buffalo Bills, and one so bad that they had to move to a alternate like neutral site. But that's sort of a hindrance to them, it seems. Like, I'm not saying Josh Allen's bad in the snow, but you're literally like you're cucking yourself out of having your best team, right? Like he's not able to throw as effectively as he could. The ball is wet. I only say all of this because there's talks that they have been approved to start construction on a new stadium soon. And they're saying they're going to make it an outdoor stadium again. They're refusing to build an indoor stadium. And they want to lean into this whole, we're tough, we're from the north. And it's like, yeah, but you've lost this game now because you did not have the ability to throw the deep ball because people can't run fast enough in the snow or catch well in the snow or throw well in the snow. And yet you're going to build a new stadium that's going to cost billions upon billions of dollars, and it's going to look beautiful. And then it's going to be a frozen tundra again, just like you experience now. I don't get it. I'm so baffled by this move.
Yeah, if they build another stadium that doesn't have a roof, they should at least have a roof or like something that they can throw over.
Retractable roof.
They have, retractable roof. They have the worst conditions for football. They have the absolute worst conditions. They need something. Like they need like to have like a retractable roof, or maybe shoot, like if they want to keep like the elements, like the cold elements, do what who was it, the Rams, do what the Rams did with their
Sure.
stadium. They made it to where it's just like it's literally just a cover, like a roof cover. But you could still feel the outside. Like there's like, it's literally just like a I don't know how to freaking explain it, but it's like a cover literally, and then like the sides are exposed.
Yeah.
So I mean, do that if anything, but you have to they have to cover that roof, dude. There's so much snow that pours over there. It makes everything difficult for every team.
Well, they've released the stadium design, and the stadium design is a completely open rooftop. It's sleek. It looks really nice. It's like the whole stadium looks like it's like glass panes around the entire thing. It looks really, like, I'd say, unique, but it's an open roof concept is what they're going for here, and I'm blown away that that's even in consideration as a team. You are drawing less fans in. I think your hardcore Buffalo Bills fans are excited for that, and they're like, "Oh, we embrace the snow, heck yeah!" But like the casual fan is not going to a Buffalo game. You're missing out on teams that would potentially travel to your stadium for anything, really. Like, look at what is hosted at AT&T Stadium year round. You have boxing events. You have you have not NASCAR, the monster truck events. You have dirt bike events. You have UFC events, basketball. They've hosted MMA. Like there's so much that they do in that stadium because they have the ability to keep it 72 degrees year round. Concerts are hosted there. Well, now you're just limiting your capabilities of what you can do. It seems like such a dumb strategy by this organization. I don't get it. So.
I'm looking at it now. It looks nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll give them that. It looks really nice, but like, it's not gonna be. There's not gonna be any use for it, like outside of like the NFL. What the heck?
You have the same situation you're in right now, where you could go into a divisional playoff game, and it could be 3 feet of snow, and you have to play in those very bad conditions. Or your team is having to pick up and move to Detroit for a game because your brand new stadium is filled with 10 feet of snow even. Like, what do? You can't do anything.
Yeah.
That seems like such a very bad strategy. So I don't know if they're just – other teams have done it in the North. Maybe they're just trying to do what the Packers have done of, we just embrace it. It's our history. But I don't get it. It's a weird move to me. So just thought I'd throw that little tidbit in.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you're building a new stadium, you have to address the issues with the current stadium, and the main issue is the weather conditions that allow that stadium is allowed to bring in. So.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. Get it together, Bills.
Yeah, get it together, Bills. What the hell? All right, let's move on from this. We got really sidetracked here. This was from Mahomes' high ankle injury. But
my bad.
He's going to play. No, we're good. Another playoff injury. Christian McCaffrey has his calf injury as well. He's also looking to play. So I guess they're not too concerned about that either, which is good because they'll probably need him. Although they didn't really use him that well against the Cowboys. Which is, I mean, it's not surprising. Kyle Shanahan loves to move around like the playbook, so he doesn't rely on one person. I know who they did utilize was George Kittle. Jeez.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that man was the star of the show. It's kind of incredible what he was able to accomplish.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, if it does limit McCaffrey in any way, that's not really a good thing for the 49ers. So. We'll just monitor the situation and see if this will limit him in any way. All right, next bit of news. Lamar Jackson rejected his 5-year deal, guaranteeing him $133 million total. And this was news that kind of broke out a while back, but it's sort of resurfacing, so we wanted to address it again. now that we're in the off season. I mean, it's just one of those things where Lamar Jackson needs to understand his value. That would put him around the Kyler Murray area for QB pay. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, I feel like it's kind of around the right spot for him to be at. But I don't know. What's your input on this, Colton?
Yeah, I think it's a weird spot for him because I feel like with mobile quarterbacks, like they often get the tag of like, well, you have a higher chance of being injured, therefore we would not like to pay you as much.
Yeah.
Because their careers will not last as long. And unfortunately, with Lamar Jackson, he falls in that same category of like your arm talent has not proven to be all that great. Like he's not a great pocket passer, and when his speed fails, then the rest of it fails. So I don't know what he's expecting to get paid. I know the Deshaun Watson guaranteed money was like $250 million. It was a fully guaranteed contract, the entirety of it. So maybe now he saw that and he's like, oh, heck no. There's no chance. I don't care what you're paying those guys. My guarantee is $120 million less than the top guy right now. I'm good enough to where I need to be getting $200 million at least. So I don't necessarily blame him based off what the most recent quarterback has received, who sort of is in a similar situation of was more of a mobile runner, although I think he was a little more accurate with his passing. I can't necessarily blame him. This is his one chance to get the bag, and he's done a lot for that organization on a rookie contract. I could say I don't know that there's a quarterback in recent history who has done more for that organization on a rookie deal while still being so buttoned up. He didn't badmouth the organization. He hasn't holed out. He played literally up until the last minute that he could receive a new deal. He did everything right. It's time to treat him with respect. And, it's time for the organization to come through for him now, as he's done for them for several years, making $5 million a season when he should have been making 45 of his average value. So, it goes both ways, and it's time for the organization to step up, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree in a sense. It kind of goes back to what he tweeted out on his Twitter. Like, he treated the organization with respect. Now it's time for them to treat him with respect. Exactly. It kind of goes hand in hand in that way. I see where he's coming from. And if you look at the Deshaun Watson signing, that Lamar Jackson should definitely be paid more than Deshaun Watson at this point.
Yep.
I understand where he's coming from, and if they truly value Lamar, then they should give him as much as he is satisfied with, I guess. I guess we'll just see what happens down the line, though. Because this is something that they're probably going to battle about for a while. So.
Or they'll try to trade him. Like, that's the other side of this coin, is they flip into a different team who's willing to stomach the payment, and they say, well, screw it, give us our 3 first-round picks. Like, that's the going rate for any quarterback these days, and we'll move on.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. Jeez. All right, next bit of news, and this one hurts us in particular. Tony Pollard fractured his fibula on Sunday night. During the San Francisco 49ers game. This one was rough to see. Like, I saw this one live, and it just looked... It was so hard to watch, like, the replay again.
Yeah.
Oh, man, dude. Like, and, like, I don't want to say that it shifted the way the game played out, but I don't know. Like, I keep thinking back to, like, if we would have still had Pollard out there, maybe there was a couple more plays that we could have had, and, like, a couple more first downs that we could have gotten with him.
I can't agree more. I think it shifted the game in a major, major way. To me, all this did was solidify that Ezekiel Elliott is no longer a top-tier running back. You pay him as your number one guy, and yet the second your backup guy goes down, everybody's like, well, shoot, there goes the run game. Everybody immediately knew Zeke was not going to be able to break loose. Zeke was going to, he did nothing. He was ineffective. The run game was gone after that. So that just, to me, but it's the nail in the coffin. It's time for Zeke to go. It's time.
Yeah.
If I'm the Cowboys organization, I'm letting Pollard walk because he just picked up that injury. I'm telling Zeke, dude, you're restructuring down to like $3 to $4 million a year because of how ineffective you've been, and I'm drafting a running back within the first 3 rounds, and that's my new back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this is something that we'll have to just like continue to monitor because it's interesting of the things that are going to shake out. And I will add to this news is that Zeke is willing to take the pay cut in order to stay with the Cowboys, which might open up some more room for them to re-sign Pollard or franchise tag Pollard, because that is something that the Cowboys are looking to do as well.
Yeah,
and it wouldn't surprise me if they did this either with him just even picking up this injury. They did this with Dak. I mean, Dak Prescott, whenever he broke his ankle, they didn't care and they signed him regardless. And so, like, this is something that I could see happening with the Cowboys organization, and then them trying to make Pollard their feature back later down the line, sort of like how they did it with Austin Eckler and Melvin Gordon. So, I mean, yeah, it's just something that we have to wait and see what will shake out. There's going to be a lot of changes with the Cowboys organization, though, this offseason.
Yeah, this is something that I've heard from a lot of scouts who are involved with the Cowboys, is that the Cowboys love their homegrown talents. The Cowboys have a hard time understanding when it's time to cut bait on guys that they have developed. So people like Tony Pollard, Tank Lawrence, those guys are hard to let go when it's kind of past their prime. They're paying them anyway. They're keeping them around because it's like, look what we have developed. We drafted this guy and made him something. We didn't have to go out and pay top of the market or trade for somebody. We just did this. And I think they really like having that, those stats. And so with a guy like Pollard, when he rebounds from this injury, because I think he will, and he has success elsewhere, they're going to look at this and go, well, shoot, we let a homegrown talent go away, rather than moving on and saying, okay, next guy, it's your turn. Like, smart business is to just draft another rookie, 3rd round, 2nd round, like all the other teams are having success with, and just moving on. Mm-hmm. This is a position you do not have to commit a lot of money to get a lot of talent out of. These guys are burn and churn and just keep going, and but yet the Cowboys are stuck on paying their homegrown guys. So I don't know. This goes even further because they let great guys like Amari Cooper go, who was not homegrown, and they chose to keep a Michael Gallup around instead and pay him almost identical money to get less production. He's not as good of a route runner. He was coming off of a major injury, yet you choose to keep him around and let an elite receiver like Amari Cooper go because they like the homegrown guys. It's, I don't know, very bad business in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make sense, honestly, either to me. And I will say that this all comes from the top. I feel like this is all from Jerry Jones. Like, I feel like Jerry Jones is like one of the worst GMs in the league right now. Like, he's just so committed and so like emotionally attached to a lot of these players that are on the team, which is fine. But you gotta think of it like he's running a business, like in that sense, and that's why they haven't been able to make it past the 2nd round of the playoffs and like ever. And so like it all stems down from him. It's not Dak's fault. It's not the defense's fault. It's not anybody it's not the player's fault. It all comes from the top. And I mean, he's gonna remain the GM and the owner for probably till the day he dies, and then he passes it off to his son.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we're gonna see a lot of this from the Cowboys. So, all right, let's stop talking about this team that's gonna frustrate me, and let's talk about another team in the NFC East, and that is the Giants. They have a predicament over there with 2 of their star players, one being Daniel Jones and one being Saquon Barkley. They are trying to keep both of these players. Now, the Giants are going to have to pay big money for Saquon Barkley. They have already offered Saquon a $2 million contract, which Saquon has declined. And what Saquon is looking... Or $12 million. Sorry, $12 million. $12 million contract from the Giants, and Saquon has declined it. Saquon is seeking $16 million from any team, which would make him tied for the highest paid running back in the league. Honestly, I mean, like running backs are very. I don't know. I just feel like they're not worth that much. But if there was any running back that was worth $16 million, it would be Saquon Barkley because he's a generational elite level talent. So I mean, I don't see the Giants paying that price. So there might be another team that'll pay that price, but I don't see the Giants giving up that much money for a Saquon.
All I will say to this is we've seen two other players ever running backs receive that caliber of deal, and it was Todd Gurley and Ezekiel Elliott. And look how bad those deals look now. Running backs age poorly and they age quickly. Every single deal you make with a running back, no matter what the caliber, because like the same thing was said about Todd Gurley. He's a generational talent. Oh my God, Todd Gurley's phenomenal. And then boom, falls off a cliff. I'll go more into this on the next segment that we have about running backs. But the same was about Ezekiel Elliott. You know, it was he looks like Barry Sanders out there. Like, how did this guy fall to 4? He is the most electric player in the NFL. My God, he's phenomenal. And then he falls off a cliff the second you pay him. I'm not saying that's going to happen with Barkley, but history tells you don't pay the guy. History tells you go find someone else. And whatever your comfort level is with your salary cap, probably around, to me, $10 million should be the absolute most they should pay. When I heard 12, I was shocked that he turned down 12 because I was like, that's really fair. They didn't lowball him and say 8 based off of the deals that are happening in the industry. They gave him a fair offer at 12. To me, I was like, that's very fair. But he's going for 16, probably settle in the middle at 14 is where you think that deal could go. Overpay. I think it's a bad deal, especially if it's like a 4-year contract. Really bad deal. So good for Barkley for getting his money. But if I'm the Giants organizations, you need to know when to cut, regardless of how good the player is. You need to know when it's time to walk away. And I would be walking away from the situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the only other person that's making this amount of money is Christian McCaffrey with the 49ers right now. But I mean, somebody's going to do it, whether it's the Giants or whether it's another team, somebody's going to do it. So, I mean, it's just, we're going to see what the Giants decide to do. But yeah, I mean, Saquon has the ability to go wherever he wants because he's just that great of a running back. I mean, the problem is that he might reject the Giants' $12 million offer, but somebody might offer him somebody might offer him $14 million, and then that's the highest, and he'll take it.
Yeah, so it really depends on where does he care about the money or the organization? Because let it be known, Christian McCaffrey is only making $11.8 million a year. He's not like this egregiously overpaid running back when it comes to his talent and his value. I think that's pretty fair. Mm-hmm. Joe Mixon's around the same. Kamara's around the same. That's the market, dude. You're trying to reset it again. I think teams have learned from it. So unless the team is willing to just say, screw it, we need to sell tickets, let's make it happen. But, there are very few teams with the salary cap to make that happen right now. The Bears are a team that could do it if they wanted to. They have a ridiculous amount. They have like $96 million in cap space right now. So that's a team that could pay and say, we're okay, and just really front load the deal because you're going to have deals coming on the books later on. So you might as well front load it while you can pay him a lot of money. And then on the back end, you have the ability to cut him or, you could, I don't know. There's ways that they could do it. I've always thought it's weird when teams backload contracts a lot. But if you're a team like the Bears, front load your deals. You have the option to right now. Like, don't get yourself in cap hell trying to finagle and try to get the most out of it. You're a team. I don't know. Doesn't make any sense. So maybe a team like that comes in and overpays, but it's an overpay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, the problem with the Bears, like if the Bears were wanting to land him, like it would be just a big mistake for the Bears. I feel like too at the same time because they don't need a running back. Honestly, they have so much to work with right now, and they have like a great future ahead of them with Justin Fields. Mm-hmm. They need to focus primarily on wide receiver, I feel like, if anything. And like I've been hearing rumors that the DeAndre Hopkins could land over there because they can afford it, and by all means they could afford it. So I mean, yeah, there's just a lot of better options for running back at the moment, which it's not a good thing for Saquon Barkley if he wants that much money. So yeah, I mean, there's just a lot better options out there for running backs.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, that was the end of our news segment, and we're going to bring you a blast to the past, and we're going to start talking about the past number one running backs. And Colton's going to take the cake on this one, and I'm going to let him start. So, Colton, you take it away, buddy.
Awesome. Okay. So this is something that I saw the other day on Twitter. Pro Football Focus released a top 10 running back, or the number one running back for the top past 10 years. And they showed a little highlight of each player, and it was meant to be like this inspirational look at these amazing running backs over the past 10 years since 2013. My mind went elsewhere. My mind immediately went to, there's not a single repeat running back on this list.
Nope.
If you look from 2013 all the way to 2022, the number one PPR running back in fantasy football has yet to repeat. And I think the data even goes further back than that. I'm just going off of the past 10 years because there's plenty of data to go off of. So it got my mind thinking, although they may not have repeated, we consistently make that the number one pick for the next year. The data tells you it's the dumb move. We need to stop doing it. But yet here we are over and over and over again, and you're already hearing it. Eckler's the 101. Eckler's the 101, or McCaffrey's the 101. You know, it's every single season we do this to ourselves. So I wanted to go back on these numbers and say not only did they finish number one, but where did they finish the next year? Because it's important to me. And then we're going to break it down compared to the wide receivers, okay? So at any point, tell me stop. It's going to be some numbers flying at you. Let me know if I lose you at all, okay? So, 2013, Jamal Charles finishes number one overall. He doesn't have that big of a fall off. He only falls off to number 7. But it's still, he was being drafted as the number one guy. So, you're losing 6 points of production, 6 spots of production there. 2014, the guy who finishes number one is Le'Veon Bell. The next season, care to guess where he finishes?
What, I'm going to guess like 30 something.
47. Very good. So, massive fall off. Not what you want to see with your guy, right?
That was the year that he tore his ACL, wasn't it?
It was. Yeah, it happened.
Yeah. Okay.
So, then 2015, Devonta Freeman, his insane season.
God.
You remember that year?
God. I remember that year. That was so great to see.
It was out of nowhere. Falcons, I picked him up that year, and it was
You did.
Man, I think I won that year because of that pickup, because it was just like a random game that he went off, and I was like, I'm going to take this guy.
I remember that year, dude. And I was furious, too, because you know who I had? I had Tevin Coleman, who was supposed to be the number one running back on that team. Yeah.
Oh, man. So, Devonta Freeman has his insane season in 2015. Next year, finishes number 6. Actually pretty solid. You'd think that's still... You're not top 5. You're still not top 5, but you're not angry by finishing 6, right?
Yeah.
Although he was kind of the consensus guy at number 1. 2016, another random guy, David Johnson.
Yeah, David Johnson.
Talk about a blast from the past, man.
Yeah, and then the next year, talk about a bust, too. Jeez.
Coming up the next season, David Johnson, the consensus number 1 overall pick, finishes 114 in PPR rankings.
You know who picked him? Me. I picked him. I grabbed him. I remember that. Oh, it was the worst. He got injured like the first week.
He did. He took a helmet to the wrist, if you recall, against the Patriots. That was a rough day. So, falls off a cliff. Next guy steps up, Todd Gurley. Finishes number 1. Surprisingly, this is one of the only people who has worked out. He finishes number 3 the next year. Doesn't finish number 1, still finishes within the top 3. The guy who did finish number 1, we're in 2018 now, rookie Saquon Barkley. Absolutely dominant.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Kills it.
Whenever he comes alive, yep.
Yeah, going into 2019, he finishes number 10. So you get a top 10 performer. You do not get the number 1 overall, okay?
Yep.
Next season, 2019, ends up being Christian McCaffrey. He's your number 1 overall finisher. Going into the next year, 2020, he finishes 54.
Yep.
That was his major injury-riddled year. Couldn't control it. And Kamara finishes number 1 in 2020. The season after that, you have Kamara finishing at number 10. So not great production. You're not really happy. Although people were saying it was between McCaffrey and Kamara. And McCaffrey fell off even a bigger cliff in 2021, sort of in that season. The guy who does finish number 1 overall, Jonathan Taylor.
Oh, my goodness.
And as we know this year, Jonathan Taylor was the number 1 consensus pick. It was between him and McCaffrey. A lot of debate over that, but most people took Jonathan Taylor due to his age and his injury history. Finishes number 30 overall. Okay? So what this tells me is the running back market is, number 1, volatile, extremely volatile, and number 2, has a lot to do with their age. Because most of these guys who finish number 1 actually are rookies. Most of these guys were going into their rookie season. Barkley was, Todd Gurley was going in year 2, David Johnson was, I believe, year 1 or 2, Devontae Freeman was year 1, Le'Veon Bell was year 1. A lot of these guys, it was their rookie season or second year. So what does this tell me about Eckler going into next year? I don't like Eckler going into next year. The data shows that you have about a 50% hit rate for your guy falling just inside the top 10. Not even a top 5 prospect, but falling in the top 10, which really, it's like he's either top 10 or he's 35. Like, it's the gap is not, okay, he'll finish somewhere in that range, you're safe, right? It is, no. He's either tearing his ACL or he's finishing maybe 5 if he's lucky, but definitely not number 1 again. But so I don't like it. I think it's a bad move, and I'd love to compare it to the wide receivers because, in my opinion, I'm done drafting running backs in the first round. I'm done with it. Unless I can get lucky and I get a guy who I can. I would rather have an elite wide receiver over an elite running back, and the numbers support it. So this is a blast from the past too. The number 1 running back in 2013. Demaryius Thomas.
The number one wide receiver.
Wide receiver, yes.
Yeah. Demaryius Thomas? Really?
What a name, huh?
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a name. Dang, I don't even remember that guy.
I know, kind of nuts. But you know what's even crazier? You know where he finished the next year?
Where?
Number 2.
Oh, interesting.
Demaryius Thomas finished in 2014 as the number 2 wide receiver, only behind Antonio Brown. Which is kind of insane because in 2014, Antonio Brown finishes as the number 1 wide receiver. Le'Veon Bell finishes as the number 1 running back.
Oh, interesting. So they were just on a tear, it seemed like.
They were insane, but Demaryius Thomas holds his value from year 1, finishing number 1 overall, to year 2, he finishes at number 2. And this is something that's sort of unprecedented, but keep note of it because it doesn't happen with running backs. Antonio Brown then goes on. In 2014, he's the number 1 guy. 2015, number 1 wide receiver. 2016, number 1 wide receiver. 2017, number 1 wide receiver.
Wow.
So he
was
goes
on a tear.
Yes, he goes 4 years holding the number 1 spot before he absolutely loses his mind. We know what he is today, but to me, this is why I don't understand. Like, he'll never get into the Hall of Fame, but Antonio Brown is a Hall of Fame wide receiver. 4 years of being the most dominant wide receiver and a Super Bowl ring, he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. But he'll never get in because of his antics.
Yeah, he won't. Yeah.
So, you may ask, after 4 years of dominance, he's bound to fall off, right? He will fall off. So, going into the next year, you're in 2018 now. So, from 2014 to 2017, he's the most dominant player in the NFL, wide receiver at least. Then going into 2018, he only falls off to wide receiver 5. Okay?
Yeah.
Numbers show. It's so far, you want the guy. So this is where you have the DeAndre Hopkins breakout year, 2018. Hopkins takes number 1, and then going into the following year, Hopkins goes to number 5. So still within the top 5.
Yeah.
2019, the number 1 guy is Michael Thomas. This is one of the rare people on the list that the next year he goes down to 95. He fell off
Yeah.
a cliff with his injuries.
With the injury, yeah.
He was not able to stay healthy. Then he had some bad blood with the organization. It was a messy situation. The guy who steps in 2020 is Devontae Adams. Then in 2021, Devontae Adams finishes as the number 2 wide receiver. So still amazing production. You're very happy with that. 2021, the only person to beat him was Cooper Kupp. And as we know, Kupp had an injury-riddled year this year, landed him as number 21 on the list. So this year is Justin Jefferson. If I have the 101, I'm taking Justin Jefferson. The history shows he has a way more likely chance to repeat as the number 1 overall. And even if he doesn't repeat, he has an insanely solid chance to finish within the top 5. All the numbers show that. Besides 2 years, that has been the consensus trend of finishing either top 5 or repeating as the number 1.
Yeah. So this kind of tells me a couple of things. Like it's everybody is so adamant about drafting running backs ahead of wide receivers every single year. Every single year, it seems like everybody should be drafting a running back over a wide receiver. The number 1 overall pick is always a running back, it seems like, especially over the last decade. So this kind of tells me that the league is changing in a way. Like it's not, it shouldn't be based on the running back position anymore because it's very inconsistent. And then another thing is that wide receivers have more value long term, especially for dynasty. So for dynasty's sake, if you have a rookie wide receiver that is elite, he's going to stay elite for a very long time. Whereas if you have a elite running back, he's not going to stay elite for as long as the wide receiver is going to stay elite for. So that kind of tells me something with the way the drafts are leaning nowadays. And so, yeah, I mean, there's going to be a huge controversy where Austin Eckler or Christian McCaffrey are going to go number 1 next year. And it should be Justin Jefferson. Like, it should be Justin Jefferson. But yeah, I mean, we're going to see this next year, and it's going to bite some people in the butt. No doubt.
You're hearing it first from me. If I have the 101, I'm taking Justin Jefferson. It is the safest play. And I don't know, people who have been listening, I don't play fantasy football as like a risk taker. I'm actually I play conservative. I make trades for sure, but I try to like weigh out injury history is the biggest thing that I try to work off of is when I'm making deals. It's injury history. So yes, I'm curious to know. Let's just do this. Just have some fun with it, okay? Because this is something that I wonder myself. Give me 1 second here. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, here we go. So in 2022, Justin Jefferson ends with 360 fantasy points, and Eckler ends with 363. 2021, Jonathan Taylor ends with 360 fantasy points. Cooper Kupp ends with 412. 2020, Devontae Adams ends with 358. Alvin Kamara ends with 377. So, if you are able to hit that number 1 guy, or even, I'll say the number 1 guy. If you're able to hit on the number 1 guy, he is going to produce for you the same level. And I feel like there's this power shift where there was, for a long time, the running back definitely outweighed the wide receiver. Because what I'll say is, I don't necessarily think, like the history and the data tells you this should have been the draft strategy for a very long time. If you're basing it off of longevity and you're basing it off of injury history and percentage to finish within the top 5 yet again. I don't know that that's changed. What's changed is the utilization of running back to wide receiver. And the wide receivers are more heavily targeted. They have more big plays. The running backs get the goal line touches, and you do have some that break off, but we don't see as many long running back touchdowns as we saw, let's say, 10 years ago, Jamal Charles. Like, actually, I want to see this. Sorry, I'm a little everywhere with the numbers, but let's go back to 2013, where Jamal Charles finishes as the number one running back, 378 fantasy points. Demaryius Thomas was 319 that year. So there was a massive delta between the players 10 years ago versus what you're seeing now. It's safer to go the wide receiver. They have less injuries. They have more consistency. They have more longevity. And the delta is not there like it used to be.
Right.
All signs should be telling you the first two players in this NFL draft, in my opinion, should be Justin Jefferson, followed by Jamar Chase. That's my opinion. They're both in their young 20s. They're both hungry. They both have great quarterback play. They get a lot of target share. But you know it's going to be McCaffrey, and it's going to be Eckler, or it's going to be Eckler and McCaffrey. And then the third pick, maybe someone like Henry. And the first running back is going to go with the 106. Or Barkley. The first wide receiver is going to go at like the 106.
Right.
So I'm passionate about this. I do not think running backs should be highly as touted as what they were in the past. And I'm even doing it with my own team. In Keeper League, I'm saving 2 wide receivers and 1 running back versus the other way around, because I do believe that the delta in numbers show that's actually the smart play here. Especially in Keeper or Dynasty formats, you want to get rid of those depreciating assets and keep the guys who will produce for you much longer and hopefully more steady points.
Mm-hmm. And you got to think about it from the quarterback perspective too. There's a lot more elite level talent quarterbacks too, and they're not just handing the ball over. They're passing it actively to all of these receivers. I mean, so like they don't want to keep passing the ball or like running the ball with their running backs. They're looking to pass it, and so if you get a guy like, say, if Saquon Barkley goes to another team, like, so say he goes to the Bills, he's not going to be as good as he was whenever Daniel Jones was just giving it to him like 20 times a game. He's going to be probably the maybe third or fourth option out there.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, if you think about it, like guys like him or guys like Christian McCaffrey, who they have a bunch of weapons over there in San Francisco, or Austin Eckler, even they just fired their offensive coordinator over there. So they're going to probably get a new system going. There's a lot more risk than taking a steady and consistent wide receiver like Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, even Devontae Adams. Shoot, you don't know what his future holds with Derek Carr probably being gone, but we didn't know what his future was going to be like whenever he got traded. So, and he was still really good. So, I mean,
absolutely,
it's just one of those things that you have to keep in mind when drafting this next upcoming season. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I 100% agree with your point, Colton. It's just like nobody's gonna listen to this and be like it's gonna be the same thing. Like it's just gonna be the same. Like people are gonna listen to this and be like, he's right, but still, I'm gonna go ahead and draft a running back first overall because that's what the trends point. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels weird to take a wide because I mean, let's be honest. Like, here's the way drafts go; they almost force you to do it. Like, let's just take a look this year at the 2022 running backs. You tell me when. Let's talk about. Well, actually, not really. Even the data supports that you shouldn't be taking a running back in the first round. I'm going to go through some of the guys. Okay, Austin Eckler was a first round pick. McCaffrey was a first round pick. Josh Jacobs was like a 5th round pick.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I'm going to go just through the top 10, okay? Just top 10 guys.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry, first round pick. Saquon Barkley, in most leagues, 2nd round pick.
Second, yeah. Third,
Nick
maybe.
Chubb in our league was the 301.
Yeah.
Tony Pollard was like a 5th round, 6th round guy, right?
Yeah, he's 6th, maybe even 7th, yeah.
Maybe even.
He was way
Aaron
down the
Jones.
list, yeah.
Aaron Jones was a 2nd to 3rd round guy, wasn't he?
Second round, yeah, second, maybe maybe late first.
Yeah, maybe he crawls in there. Ramondre Stevenson, he was like a third to fourth round pick.
Oh, dude, yeah.
And Dalvin Cook was a first round pick. So
yeah,
you have your top 10 running backs about 50-50 split. You can get production in those second to third. Like if you took a top tier wide receiver and then followed it up with a secondary back-to-back running back pick, you're in great shape because guess what? Let me rattle off the top 10 wide receivers. You have Jefferson, first round pick. Tyreek Hill, he was a second round pick. Devontae Adams, he was a first round pick. Stephon Diggs, second round. A.J. Brown was like second to third, right? CeeDee Lamb was second to third. Amon-Ra St. Brown at number 7, he was like a 7th or 8th round pick, right?
Yeah, I think he was 6 for me.
Okay, 6 for you. Jalen Waddle was like a 5th to 6th round pick. Devontae Smith was around a 5th to 6th round pick. And Amari Cooper was like a 3rd to 4th, right? Wasn't he?
I think around there, yeah, around maybe 5th. Maybe 5th.
Yeah.
5th.
So all I'm saying is, on the back end, after basically wide receiver 4, all of the top wide receivers in the league are like, you can get great production and get a top 10 wide receiver in like the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round, as we've just shown you. The numbers support that. So if you do like a wide receiver, running back, wide receiver style format, that is actually the most statistical data where you're going to find the most success in each of those rounds for longevity, point value, and hopefully if you're in like a keeper or a dynasty format, you're going to avoid some injuries. So I don't know. We'll see. This year's draft strategy is going to be a little different for me in my redraft leagues. I'm going to try to follow this as closely as I can. But yeah, this is something that the numbers support. You should not be taking your running backs in the first round at all.
Yeah.
You should be trying to rake up with those wideouts.
Yeah. I mean, like, if you pick a wideout in the first round, they're more than likely guaranteeing a successful year. But if you're picking a running back in the first round, it's less likely to guarantee you a top 5 maybe performance. So
there has only been in the past 10 years one running back to finish number 1 and then finish in the top 5 the next year. It doesn't happen. In 10 years, it's happened one time. It's actually more likely that they'll finish outside the top 10 entirely. But yet here we are, the same freaking thing over and over. And, you know, I don't know. I just don't get it. The number one guy should not be – the number one running back should not be the guy you go and target the next year. You should be looking at someone like Derrick Henry, who maybe isn't the sexiest name these days, but Derrick Henry sometimes – like he somehow always finishes within the top 5 to 10 guys. You need to be finding people who are consistent and not flashy, and even then, still go with the wide receiver in the first round because they're younger normally, they get more volume, and these days there's no delta in points.
Right. I guarantee you that Josh Jacobs is going to be picked like pretty early in the draft this upcoming year.
Yeah.
And we don't know what's going on with him. Like he needs to be figured out long term, like with the Raiders. Like they don't know what they're going to do with him yet.
Yeah.
So they need to figure out what they're going to do with him. So, but he's still gonna get picked or drafted by fantasy teams, 1st overall, 2nd overall, 3rd overall. So I mean, it's just gonna be funny to see these things happen. And like I'm not saying Josh Jacobs was a one-hit wonder. Like he was a great player, but just limit what you think these players are going to do next year. These running backs are going to do next year and like the years to follow. So
yeah, there's running backs in my head are a depreciating asset year over year, whereas wide receivers are an appreciating asset. Like, and especially some of these young guys like Jamar Chase, he's 22 years old. He is so freaking young. You look at Stephon Diggs, who just this past year, Stephon Diggs finishes the wide receiver 4, and he's 29 years old. You're telling me that a wide receiver can find dominance if they find it early, like Jamar Chase found his dominance early. If he finds that early, like he is right now, he could have 8 years of elite production. of being a top tier guy like Julio Jones was, or AJ Brown was, or those guys. They find that elite
Antonio
production.
Brown,
They find it like that very often, and it stays. But it doesn't seem that way with the running backs. So I don't know, man. I will collect the data this year as we're moving in. I'll find where these guys were commonly drafted, and I'll track it through the year, and we'll have the same conversation next offseason. And I would almost guarantee the data is going to support that you should be going wide receiver and not running back.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's where we should end it, Colton. We should end screaming at our listeners to draft a wide receiver next year.
Running backs in the first round.
Yeah, in the first round. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening to us. You can follow us on Twitter at halftime_ADJ. You can listen to us everywhere on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, and on Amazon Podcasts. We don't know what's going on next week. We might have Luis back. We might record on Sundays. We're kind of up in the air at this point. But we will bring you guys that weekly dose of great content. So yeah, anything else you want to add, Colton?
No, not at all. Just happy to be here.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening to us, and we will see you guys next week. Later.